All right, so like I was saying before you guys came in here, you guys do a bunch of stuff, so we can go in many directions. But I know the prime reason you guys came in here was so we could talk about your new federation, Beach Jiu-Jitsu. Jed Dulaney, I know that you were a former engineer, right?
Yes.
You wrote a book too
Yes.
about being in Havana.
Yeah, about a trip I took to Havana. It's not a book about jujitsu, but it's a
I know,
book
I know.
about life.
Yeah, yeah. I read the back
And
of it. It sounds super interesting. Also, Jiu-Jitsu black belt and an entrepreneur. Talita, UFC fighter. Teach Jiu-Jitsu as well at Fight Sports, right?
No, I teach at Tempo Jiu-Jitsu. It's in Delray.
Oh, okay. So UFC fighter, also helping with the event. Guys are putting it together. Multiple world champions, Pan American champion. So many stuff that you guys have on your plate in terms of resume. So I kind of want to get to the genesis of why you guys decided to put together this event, which is for me is a very interesting event. I think you said it once that it brings eyes to people that haven't seen jiu-jitsu, and I think that's completely accurate. So how did you guys come up with the idea, and just walk me through that entire process?
Okay.
you always tell the story. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Jed will start because he was the main guy. He asked me to join him and to be his partner. So I'm like less honored too, but he's the guy that created the beach jiu-jitsu. So I'm gonna throw to him.
That works.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a good way for her to start the story,
Okay.
because she came in a little later to help it out and to help it grow. But like anything, it started off, with me and nobody. I just wanted to do jujitsu. I was out at the beach. I'd seen some beach wrestling stuff online, and was inspired by it. I thought it was cool, but I thought it was missing some things.
Yeah.
They were doing takedowns and then they'd stop, get a point, do takedowns, get a point. And it took me back to a lot of the point stuff in jiu-jitsu that a lot of people don't like.
Right. It's
going back to-
100%.
Yeah. So I really just thought that, even jiu-jitsu itself in the academies and in competitions needed a little change.
Right.
People were just getting too comfortable. They weren't going out of their comfort zones anymore. We see how people were pulling guard and, whatever your viewpoint is on that,
Yeah.
but to me, a lot of the direction jiu-jitsu was going was less, self-defense and just more recreational.
Yeah.
And I think it needed to go back in that direction a little bit of the self-defense. The other thing is jiu-jitsu doesn't have to be done in the academy.
Mm-hmm.
When I train and stuff, I train a lot at home, outdoor workouts and stuff. And I think jiu-jitsu is something else you can do there.
Yeah.
You don't have to have an academy. Some academies get expensive. So there was just many reasons to get into it. So we started the classes on the beach. It was just me many times.
Right.
I didn't advertise. I just told the people I trained with, locals. And as they came, they'd say, hey, I've got a nephew or I've got a brother or cousin that trains. And they'd send them out to the island and we trained together. And after about a year or two, then we'd have group classes and we'd meet up on like Saturdays and Sundays. And, next thing you know, we'd have a class, but then there'd be people just come off the beach and be like, hey, I train.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was going on. Can I just join your class?
That's super cool. Just it came off just training on the beach.
Yeah. And, some days we'd only have 2 to 3 people besides me. And other days, there'd be 12 people in the class and, you didn't plan on having any of them.
Right.
And you may have people that were from different countries and different cities and stuff show up. So that's how, I got started with the beach jiu-jitsu, and then I got injured. I got in a motorcycle accident and I couldn't compete in classes anymore. I had to stay involved in jiu-jitsu. I kept coaching in the academy, but I wanted to continue the beach jiu-jitsu. There was enough interest, I thought, and I liked it enough to keep pushing it and continue it.
Yeah.
So we started the competitions. With my academy that I train at in Sarasota, we started an in-house tournament, but instead of in-house, it was outdoors on the beach. And that created the content for us to start sharing to people and getting their feedback online.
Yeah.
And once we were able to get that, I was able to gauge the interest, but also, I've got to get the interest. I've got to get acceptance from the public, the locals that live in the area,
Right.
because they're actually the ones that work for the city and issue the permits and stuff.
Yeah.
So if I go out there and I would start having the classes and the city didn't like it,
Right.
then they could have easily just said, you know, there's maybe you made some people upset or they don't like it there, so we're just not going to issue the permit.
Right. Yeah, that makes
so
sense.
the permit goes a lot locally. You've got to keep everybody there happy as well. So once I was injured, you know, I took it the direction of we had the in-house tournament, we had outdoors, and then I got the acceptance of everyone. It was easy for me to get the permits and then it was easier for us to go to South Florida for the fourth one, and then that's where she joined us.
Oh, that sounds great. So you came in South Florida. Was there a reason why you decided to join up on it?
Oh no, I had a message for his Instagram, his old Instagram, and he invited me to fight, and I was not even like fighting jiu-jitsu, competing jiu-jitsu tournaments, because you never know when you get a fight, you know, MMA. So I was keeping myself ready for a last minute call if it's like make the
right.
You know what I mean? Everybody's happy with the fight, we will do it. But I was ready for a fight, and I was like, I told him, I was like, "Hi, Jed." I answered him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm looking for girls to fight." And I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm not competing in the moment because I'm fully focused on MMA, but I can host the event if you want. Help you out, you know, like I have some experience because on my time, like competing jiu-jitsu only, I work for IBJJF, Five Grappling, I Fight to Win, I work all those federations, you know, and I have a lot of experience. If you want, I can host the event and I can help you out today." And then we started to talk about, and then I show him like what I think that he could do it, that get sponsor, like do better social media. And then I did a lot of things from behind, you know, so to help him out. And he knew that he needed to do something, and he already had started everything pretty much, like YouTube channel. He already posting. He knew that he had a photographer. They need to have a photographer and other things. I just made better connections, you know. And I was like, okay, we need to get the name of the Beach Jiu-Jitsu over there. So I was like, we need to be in podcasts and talking about people and getting the name over there. And then that's what I'm good at. So I can do this for you. And then by the end of the event, he was already asking me to be his partner, you know, to own.
Right, which makes sense, kind of with the connections, and then you're kind of building the federation, and then you with your connections and the marketing. It's a really good team to kind of come together and build an event that's likely for success, right? So when we talk about beach jiu-jitsu, and I was having this conversation with my wife when we were talking about, there's so many new components when it comes to grappling on the beach. In particular, and probably the most important one is the sand, right? Yeah. You know, I think I've maybe wrestled around in the sand with some friends or whatever, and I can vaguely remember that one of the issues is kind of the traction between the sand and getting the takedown. So bringing that element into jiu-jitsu kind of creates another component of strategy that nobody's really thinking about.
You cannot just pull and push anymore. You can drive, but you gotta do something because you're gonna sink.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's 100%. And even with let's say you got somebody, and not to get super technical into it, but if you're on side mount and they have you in side mount, right? To get the underhook, you can kind of just dig under the sand to get it, right? So there's so many components that you don't think about when you're thinking about just training on the mat, and that criteria makes it much more exciting event. You know what I mean? You don't think about those things. If you're training on the mat, you might train a certain way, but once you get to the beach, there's these new elements to it.
And what's your top game, you know? But it's funny that you said that. I like that you said that, because most of people, when we're talking about jiu-jitsu on the sand, they think about the sand as an issue, you know? Yeah. And you know how jiu-jitsu, it's a much more comfortable environment right now, in the mat, good mat, you know, if you're back in
air
Brazil,
conditioning.
Yeah, air conditioning, exactly. Back in Brazil, and we didn't have nothing. Days and mats were or they were rubber mats, or they were
the puzzle mats.
Yeah. And we had tires underneath, you know what I mean? It was old school. I never had air conditioning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the gym that I teach is same. I don't have air conditioning. It's open wide and it's hot.
Yeah, yeah.
And
it's an extra layer of toughness on that.
Yes, it gives more toughness, I believe, and even for my little kids, because most of like the parents around there they're like housewives, and they don't want to be sitting out in the cold or in summer or the hot when it's summer, you know, in the holidays. But what you said is so interesting because you're thinking outside the box. You're not thinking like, oh, I don't want to do jiu-jitsu in the sand. I don't want to get sand in my
No,
eyes.
that'll never
I don't
be.
want to get sand in my ears.
That's the
I mean-
first reaction we usually get.
No, that's
Everybody's.
no. Whenever there's something new when it comes to jiu-jitsu, I try not to look at the negative, like the net, because it's a combat sport. Let's be honest. Like we're not playing badminton. You know what I mean? So the element of the sand and the beach making it harder, I kind of find it interesting. You know what I mean? I find that the sand is not as a bad thing, but something that you have to overcome in terms and think about it and how you can use it as well.
So here's what I think, and from me doing it out on the beach and from the feedback of the competitors. So the sand in the eyes doesn't affect you as much as it worries you, the people, and makes them think. Because it's always there, you know, and they're closing their eyes and they're dodging it.
Yeah, they dodge it.
But the things that really affect them, and I get this a lot from the guys that have, you know, I've got guys, there's a guy named Daniel, he's a blue belt, and he's competed in all 4 tournaments. And this guy will have 6 matches, and you're like, hey man, we need another match for this guy. His opponent didn't show up. Can you do it? And he's just like, I'm down. And you know, I think he's done one other tournament in a matted area, and everything else has been like on the beach. And he's the most calm, like he's just like, oh, he's a Brazilian kid. He's just real relaxed and nice. But every match, he's never turned down a match, and I bet you by now he's probably got well over 20 beach matches.
Dude, it's gotta be like a fun experience.
You know what
they'll
say is, you know, like in July, like when the events were, we had them last year in May, July, and August, and that's the hottest time in Florida. And you wouldn't hear him complain about the sun or the sand.
No.
You'd hear him complain about the sun. You know, you'd literally see the guys out there, and they'd be winning a match. They'd be on top, and the sun would be beating down on them. And the guy on bottom's kind of in the shade, you know, because he's getting covered up.
That's true.
And next thing you know, you see the guy on top just hit a wall. Like his energy is just out, and you're like, you see it in him. He's just gassed. And the guy on bottom gets up, wrestles up, takes him down, gets on top, and chokes him out.
That's
and
such a good
we've got
point.
a couple of videos like that, and the guys will tell you, they're like, you know, it's not the sand so much as the sun. And when we did the event in May or in February in South Florida, it was beautiful. You didn't have that, but you still have the sand. It's not even. So that goes back to another. What's the other issue that people have is the sand's not even. You talk about the takedown. We've had quite a few competitors, black belt and brown belt. They shoot for the takedown, and when they shoot, the sand slides out, so they lose the takedown. You know, they hit, and it's a mess, and they're trying to recover. Yeah. And you know. So that's another thing. You're not taking off the same as it's uneven. And when we were doing the classes on the beach, the one thing we focused on a lot, especially if I had a new person that was training, a lot of pushing on the beach back and forth for self-defense. Right. Like if someone came in close, we'd be hitting the pads, but then I'd have them close the distance till you're in, and you got to push each other away to keep maintaining your base. Because when you're out in that type of environment, your base is your number one thing. 100%. When you can literally be pushed a little bit and you slide out and could fall, like sand or ice is what it simulates. It's kind of like being in snow or ice. You got to be able to catch yourself, and when you're training out there, that's the best way to, you know, get your base better. You know?
And when I think about this beach, the beach jiu-jitsu, I think it brings me back to this video of Hicks and Gracie on the beach in Rio, where you got in a fight with, I don't remember the name of the person. It was Duarte? I think it was that one. It brings me back to that one. Do you guys get that a lot?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, like that was the first idea that when he told me about beach jiu-jitsu, and I was like, oh, jiu-jitsu started in the beach. It's like real old school, you know. And when we did the skip because I wanted like to create like a trailer or whatever, I skipped like kind of like mimicking what they did in Brazil back in the day to introduce jiu-jitsu to the schools, you know. And it was funny because my main idea is getting like a small guy with a girl, and like somebody take the girl, like just like the old school jiu-jitsu, you know. Right. Besides the ones that you see, the Hickson and the other Gracie, Hansa Gracie fighting in the beach, you know, like in the canopy, like just like but there's so many people, and they like you know, let me surf against jiu-jitsu. I remember that was
Oh
really
yeah, it sounds like it's a
strong.
big thing.
And when we came with this idea, he changed the idea, and I was like, "What?" He's like, "No, let's just walk and like, and you." And the guy kind of like started to bully me or whatever, and I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "I'm not ready for this," and you take him down. I was like, "No way." So the first video was like this, and I was like, I wasn't ready for this, and I was like, "Okay, do you want to do it? Let's do it."
I didn't tell her I had a shoulder injury. I don't think. And I was like,
You left that out
so
conveniently.
we needed to make the video, and she was kind of the star of it. She's the UFC fighter. She's a champion, so she's got to be the star. And I knew I wasn't going to be the one doing the takedown on somebody because of my injury, and I wasn't going to be jumping up and doing any flying arm bars. So she brought Fagino. He
A
came,
friend of mine.
yeah, which was excellent. So he was able to step in with the video, and it was a fun time. I think we had a real fun time making the video. I mean, yeah, we changed it at the end, but I think she's
Yeah, it
learning.
became like authentic, you know.
I'm
Right.
very last minute with things, like everything.
Yeah, he tried to change everything.
Everything last minute because I overthink things, and yeah.
And I try to keep him on his ass.
It's a good balance. You know what I mean? We got someone coming up with ideas like, wait, hold on, slow it down, guys. You can't have it that way. Now, I mean, let's go over like how you guys decided on the point system for the. I mean, it's not a point system, right? Submission only. Yeah. It's submission only. Why did you decide that? I'm very curious to that. I know you explained it a little bit in the beginning.
Well, one, I want to focus on submissions.
Yeah, 100%, right.
To me, I think that's going back to what jiu-jitsu is intended for. I think it's the only true way to get people, fighting to win. When you give them the option for points, a lot of times they fight for points and they just say, all right, I've got 30 seconds, I can hold this out. And especially when we get to higher belt levels, brown, black, even purple belt, the guys learn defenses, so they're harder to submit. So we couldn't go to just a submission only and no time limit. We did that in our third tournament. We had submission only, no time limit. And we had black belts going for 25 minutes. In the sun, and it was hot. It is what it is, at the time, they were paid athletes. So I said, you guys are going until there's a submission. I don't feel bad, but if you're a paying competitor and, you don't want to do that route, that's a different story. But the thing is we did adjust the matches. So there was a time limit with respect to everybody.
I think the time limit is essential if you're doing anything that's submission only. It creates like a sense of urgency.
Well, not just that. You've got to have a respect for people's time. If we have 35 competitors out there and they all go to, like overtime and stuff, and they're not getting submissions for whatever reason, I mean, that's a long day. I've competed in a lot of NAGA tournaments, IBJJF tournaments, local tournaments. And I think, at least me and my friends, none of us like NAGA because we were there all day. And that was the exact reason. I mean, you could judge your tournament, one, by the outcome. How well did you do? Were you judged fairly by the refs? But two, were you there all day wasting your time? Did you feel like you were wasting your time? Like, the mats were empty, I could have been competing. It's 5 o'clock in the evening. So, we may do a tournament sometime where we focus on a bunch of competitors in an all-day event. But right now, that's not the goal. We want to respect everyone's time, and we want to make it an event that people can enjoy. Because I do think that the beach jiu-jitsu is more exciting than a matted competition. And at times, many other types of competitions. I think the environment, I think it brings more interest from the spectators. And it's, the roughness of it, it makes the competitors just grind it out a little harder. They have to. No one wants to be the guy getting their face smothered in the sand.
No, 100%. I didn't even think about that.
And I mean, you don't want to picture it that way, but I mean, when it's a competition, your opponent's not going to worry about if your face is the one getting smothered in the sand, as long as his isn't.
Right, exactly.
And these are things we really got to worry about in jiu-jitsu, and not all the time when we train. Not every time, but sometimes. I think we need to get out of our comfort zone a little bit again.
Yeah.
Step out of it.
I think that's. I mean, the way that you're putting it is, it really brings me back to the reality that jiu-jitsu, although practice on mats, isn't meant to be used on mats. like, yeah, you're a competitor, but it does bring back that unexpected element that when it comes to when you would really apply jiu-jitsu in real life, right? You're not going to be applying it in on the mats on a soft ground with all those elements. You know, the elements that you find them are in the nature, right?
I think what the mats bring is predictability.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And in any self-defense situation or outdoor defense situation, even more in MMA than jiu-jitsu. I mean, jiu-jitsu can be very predictable. I'm going to do this, he's going to do that, I'm going to do this. But then when you take it off that matted surface where you're really thinking about where am I going to step, you know, that's less predictability to have. I compare it to like running. You can run outside on, you know, a sidewalk and you can get a good stride, you know, and you can get a good pace. If you run on the beach outside, I would do a lot of that. You'll never get that because the ground's not even. You've got to watch out where you're going.
So true, yeah.
You can't just look forward. You got to say, oh, there's a kid coming, or there's something here. And that's the same thing outside. If you ever have to use your self-defense outside, I mean, we've seen videos of guys like Ryan Hall, like choking the guys out in the restaurant and stuff like that. And what are they doing? They're running into chairs and tables. Yeah. I mean, that's the unpredictable nature of a self-defense situation. Right. And you know, the academy makes it comfortable. It makes it predictable again.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a safe environment in order to add that unpredictability. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah, but it's meant to be safe, you know?
Right,
like,
it's safe.
Yeah, it's a business and they're providing service and like they're bonding with people too.
I feel so bad that you have like 4 pillows on you. You want
No, it's because I'm getting cold. I'm gonna be honest.
You want the blanket?
You
can take the blanket.
Thank you. I look and I was like, it's gonna be next.
So you're saying?
No, yeah, I think it's meant to be, and I think that's important to us to rephrase. And again, like I think you thought outside the box like the others. You know, like it's more like a challenging how I can perform as how can I do it? Oh, it's fun. You know what I mean? Instead of to be like. I don't want to sing, you know what I mean?
Are you guys getting that a lot? Is that?
Oh, we got there a lot.
A lot of reaction?
Because we're trying to get like bigger names to fight, and we face some issues.
You've gotten some good names already.
Yeah, but we're trying to get bigger names to fight, like maybe get Craig Jones. That's one of the guys that I wanted because he went viral with the beach beach video in Brazil, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
And I know he would do something like this, you know, but I know he's focused on traveling and on the next tournament that he's going to do it. But and other guys, you know, like good matches and find sponsorship to get bigger names just to have appearance for the event, you know. I think it makes big if we could do this, you know, but it's been pretty fun, you know, try to work some things. But yesterday I did a podcast for my fight and called like Fight Inside Podcast. And there was another fighter there, I think Ben, his name. And like back and forth in the end, they was like, oh, do you want to share something? And I was like, oh, you guys should follow Beach Jiu-Jitsu. So I was talking about in the end. And they're talking about my story, that they really like my story, that it's like a good motivation for others. And I was like, oh, but what do you think about Beach Jiu-Jitsu, Bam Bam? I was like, you compete in the beach? He's like, hell yes. And I was like, okay, let's go.
You're bringing into the. Yeah. It was about your fight. And you're like, well, you know, there's also Beach Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, Beach Jiu-Jitsu. I was like, I'm partnered with this, and I talk a little bit about it in the end, and they, okay, we're going to follow. And they started following the Beach Jiu-Jitsu, you know.
I mean, I'm excited about it. I think that platform that you guys are doing it and on the beach, I like the how those variables play. You know what I mean? There's so much stuff that's unexpected that's going to change. A good competitor could come in and compete, but when it's not used to those elements and that environment, it creates a different situation. It kind of, if you think about it, you have to be adaptable when you're in the beach. Like if you're rolling in the beach, not saying that I'm done, but just based on my perception. So that muscle that allows you to deal good with scrambles and the adaptability, that component becomes so much bigger on the beach than it would be on the mats. So I think that strategy is great when you're on the mats. I mean, strategy anywhere is great, right? But how good are you when something was going perfect and all of a sudden you got to readapt?
when you get your face is
So,
mashed in the sand.
Leilani Bernales?
Yeah.
So she's a perfect example of what you just said.
100%.
And we had a match with her. It was the third or third event.
Yeah,
Our
I saw
third
that match.
event. And she was the second female match. But it was an example. She took off. She went to shoot a takedown, and it slipped out from under her. She slipped out, and the other girl, she was a little bigger. She was a purple belt, but she was a little bigger. You know, she snatched up her head and got her in a front headlock choke.
Yeah.
And you know, Leilani, like normally she would have smashed that takedown. She, you know, I think she would have blasted through it. But 100%. What happened was she slipped and she hit a wall. And you seen her run into that girl, and she just kind of hit that wall, and that girl grabbed the guillotine, and Leilani spent the next, 10 seconds trying to escape that guillotine. But once she got out, it was Leilani again.
Yeah.
You know, a world champion competitor. Yeah. She overcame everything, and she got the submission. But she was in big trouble there for the beginning of that match just because of that. I mean, that expectation that you can go in and compete the same exact way you would in the mat. You know, I mean, it's good to have that confidence, but the situation's never the same.
I mean, Leilani is a perfect example of a person that has that ability, because if you watch her matches, whenever there is a scramble, she always ends up dominating the scramble.
Yeah, because she's a back taker, she likes to go over like the back, and it's very good, and she has this scramble for, she always gonna find the scramble.
Always. Like,
she can wrestle.
There was a match that I think it was in the trials in Brazil. There was a match, I don't remember the competitor right now, but it was in the midst of the scramble. Not only is she good offensively, but the defensive tactics that she plays, like they were going to take her back, and she ended up in a mounted position, and it was a long scramble. Like I'm assuming that a lot of people will accept the position in the scramble within a shorter time, right? But she is willing to expand that scramble until she gets to a dominant position. And I think that muscle is something that will create a successful person in a beach setting, because it's going to happen so much, right?
Well, probably many settings in life.
Oh, true, yeah.
And not just the beach, but jiu-jitsu and life. It's like, all right, you've got that gear to kick it up a notch, right?
Yeah.
And, for me, it's like when I seen the match with Leilani, I've watched that match a lot. And you hear about MMA fighters or boxers or people that, they'd get in the ring and they'd never get started until they got hit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I got hit and then I could get going.
They woke up,
I was in the fight now. And for me, that's kind of where that match was with Leilani. It was like, she was comfortable. She shot the takedown, and it was a great takedown, great technique. But once it hit, she was like, things aren't the same here. Yeah. Now she's recovering, and it was like, now she's trying to defend now. So for me,
like you said, it's true.
She shot that takedown. It was hard. She hit the hips. And, once she escaped, she's like, all right, now it's a fight. Now it's a scramble. Yeah. We're scrapping now. And
it's a good point.
It made for an exciting match. So.
I mean, that's like you said, it is something that is applicable not only for the beach, but in life and for your jiu-jitsu overall, But there's not really, you'll encounter the quantity of scrambles that you'll encounter on the mats it's going to happen. It happens in any competition, but to allow for that muscle to exercise is going to make your jiu-jitsu a lot better in the long run for those type of moments. And I think that's a great thing. And I also kind of wanted to talk about, I heard this, but you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that you guys are also doing some sort of compensation for the fighters as well, for the competitors. Is that correct?
Most of the events, at least until the last event, we were paying athletes. Jed was like working really hard to pay the athletes, and we're compensating every division, white belt to black belt.
That's a great.
Yeah, we're doing our best to.
Yeah, I get that.
We'd love to say that every division has got compensation, but we can't, because
understandable.
We've got to run the event, and we've also got to make divisions with prize money.
Completely understandable.
So the way we set it up is that the more people sign up, the more prize money there is.
100%,
the more chance there is for prize money. So like 8-person divisions. We had a white belt division. Actually, we didn't have. We had.
No, we did.
We didn't have a full 8-person white belt division, so we made it the open. We made an open. We put a belt on it. The blue belt division had 8 people that had prize money. The advanced divisions, it's not 8 people for the advanced divisions. I think we did 4 people for those divisions that had prize money. And, even we did compensate some of the athletes that didn't win. They came out and gave their time, some of the advanced competitors. And for me, it's, you know, as much as we can give back and still host a good event for everybody.
No, but that's exactly where I'm getting at. Like it's obviously you guys are running a business. You need to be able to fund that business, right? That's understandable. But in your mind, you're starting this event and you're already thinking about compensation for the athletes. You're trying to structure it in a way that makes it possible. There's a lot of events that don't even think about that. They think about getting the money for them and then the competitors, maybe a prize here, but you guys started the business with that in mind within the business model, right? And I think one of the things that's important for me when it comes to events is that the event creators think about the athlete in the forefront. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's going to take some time to get it there because it's a business like any other business, right? But having that in the forefront allows you to see that what you guys really care about is, yes, putting on a unique event where the experience is going to bring eyes that aren't natural, putting it in a more natural environment where you can apply jiu-jitsu that's not on the mats, but also you're thinking about the athletes. So those three components is what makes this event for me very exciting, because it's an opportunity for athletes to kind of expand and find a home where they can grow. You know what I mean? It's a very unique mindset to have when starting an event.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I look at that, what you just said, and the more I think about it, I mean, for us to have a professional event, you know, you've got to have people that want to compete. The competitors. I mean, if you don't have competitors, you don't have an event.
That's true. Yeah, of course.
You know, the white belts, they're almost white belts and blue belts. They're always the ones to step up, you know, and part of it's because of their lack of knowledge of things like defenses and stuff. Yeah. But they give some of the most exciting matches.
That's so true. That's 100% true.
You're like, man, white belts, go at it, because you know there's going to be a submission, because there's usually a difference in skill level a little bit.
Yeah. Strength.
Whether they both know the same submissions or not, you know, they're lacking and usually in defenses and stuff at that level. Yeah. You know, so you usually see more submissions. You know, we did 3 tournaments where we had 2 of them had no time limit. The first one we did points just to get people, they were competing for another tournament, so we wanted to get them used to the point system.
Right. They kind of like transfer them over.
Yeah, but the other 2 didn't have points, and they were submission only. And the only matches that we had go over like a 2-minute overtime. We had some that went into overtime, but they usually by then people got tired. You know, they were just like tired, and someone got submitted. In the advanced ranks, they get tired, but they know how to defend. You know? So they show up and we're all there for 20 minutes thinking, I'm like, how can I get this to go faster? Like, you know, can I poke him or something? Like, what can we do here? But the white belts and blue belts, they bring the action. The kids bring the action, you know? So when I look at like my past events, I'm new to this promoting thing. I've been to a lot of tournaments. I've been to a lot of MMA fights, amateur, professional. I've been to a lot of boxing matches. You see a lot of behind the scenes things, but nothing prepares you for when you start being a promoter. Like, you know, my intention was to have classes on the beach, not be a promoter, and that's
look how that changed
in one event. Yeah. But now you've got people saying, hey, all right, you know, pay me to do this and I'll do that, and then it changes the game a lot. And you don't feel sometimes like the energy that you put into those advanced competitors, and not all of them, just some of them, you know, you're like, am I going to get that out? Like, how am I going to get that money back to give to these guys or to the event? You know, if I've got a competitor, you know, they're an advanced competitor and they're like, yeah, we want to compete, but you know, the prize money's got to be this. I'm thinking like, all right, you're a black belt. That's great. We have you. That legitimizes the event, but it doesn't make the event necessarily better for the other competitors. You know, how does that make it better for the white belts and blue belts? I
didn't even think about that.
I mean, yeah, it gives them a show sometimes, but again, the exciting matches a lot of times are the white and blue belts. That's what people like to see. So, you know, you want a mix of everything, but you also got to see, like, say, like, hey, if I'm paying this black belt for a match, or I'm putting up prize money for the black belts, like, what's it getting the other people for the event?
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that balancing element too when it comes to putting on a promotion like that. Yeah. Did you guys notice it when you were doing it?
It's just stuff that have come up, you know.
For me, that's the most important thing for me. When he told me that he's paying white belts, I was like, that's amazing, actually, because all those white, blue belts, they're going to be hungry to make this money, you know. They will make excited because they don't care, you know what I mean? They just, and I'm like, and everywhere we've been to, like, every gym that we've been to advertise the tournament around the Fort Lauderdale area, I told him, make sure you tell everybody that you're paying white belts because people love
Yeah,
this.
dude, 100%. And that's also the largest pool of competitors is those two belts, is like those two belt ranks, the white and blue belts, where you're gonna get most of the competitors coming in. Like you said, the ones that make the name are always the black belts, the brown belts, the Leilanis. Those names are gonna help bring eyes to the event. But the pool of competitors is within the white and the blue belts. It starts to diminish as they go higher in the belts. So that's a really, when I started doing the research on the event that you guys are putting on, in Beach Jiu-Jitsu, and I saw that, I was like, this is amazing that they're trying to do this. You know what I mean? And that's something that they're really focused on, because a lot of these guys have those dreams of white and blue belt, and they're like you said, they're willing to put it on the line. And not a lot of, no, I don't think anybody is trying to do that. You know what I mean? It's a noble forefront.
Yeah, I mean, I hope there's all kinds of other tournaments doing it. I
But
mean,
they're not, dude.
Well, I hope there is. I mean, that's not for me. I mean, it's a great thing we add. I mean, for me, I just want competitors happy, and if that money makes them happy, that's great. But I want other tournaments to be doing that. I mean, because these are things I think other tournaments should be doing.
Yeah.
They should be taking care of the competitors. When
Not just
it
take from
had
them.
been 2
That's
years since
exactly
I've been
what I'm getting at.
to a Naga tournament, and when I seen the price of it, it was like, I'm like, wow, in a full day event, for a parent to take their kid there, that's a few $100 day, and
Yeah.
Not everyone's wealthy like that. So
Yeah.
it seems like some of those tournaments that they cost the most for the competitors, like, yeah, there's a lot of competitors. You got, IBJJF's got a lot of competitors. You're gonna have great competition. But it's still a lot of money for families, and maybe there's some good competitors out there that are secluded now because they can't afford that. Or
Yeah,
something.
dude,
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
100% true.
That's $100 for Naga.
I didn't get
But
any.
imagine if when you go to IBJJF, I go to IBJJF,
Yeah.
I compete Pan Ams last year, the Nogi Pan Ams, and I spent $1,000, like, because I had to go ticket, hotel, registration. I don't pay anymore because I'm a world champion or whatever, but at least they give back to you a little bit, But it's all investment, you know what I mean? You put it on to win a medal that you're not gonna win anything. You're just gonna go to the rank, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for the medal. But that's the point. I mean, we're talking about it because that's the point of reference is the compensation, right? But the mentality of fighters first, there's not a lot of competitions that go fighters first, that think fighters first. Like, let's think about the well-being of the fighter.
Very few. Fight to Win, us. Now, UFC Invitational, pay very well. There's another, a small, and they're becoming big tournaments. They're submission only, that they pay the athletes actually, you know what I mean? EBI, like all those guys. And this definitely why people become no-gi specialists and submission specialists,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly why I think that's why the trend is happening towards no-gi, is because of those type of tournaments. Obviously, it's the Gordon Ryan, the persona of Gordon Ryan.
Gordon started, he was nobody. He started EBI and winning all the EBIs, and then boom, he became big.
Right. Yeah, I mean the attraction to those types of competitions that's what made his name was that no-gi competition.
But nobody knew him when he competed at IBJJF.
Nobody.
The no-gi, it's more exciting. I mean, I'm a gi guy.
Yeah.
But again, it's similar to some black belt matches. I mean, even the gi, it's just a little slower pace.
I mean, the Pan Ams are on right now, and I was watching some of the black belt matches, and the stalling that's taking place, like they're looking at the clock, waiting for the last 30 seconds to get the sweep. They're waiting,
It's boring.
But you know what? That's the name of the game, but it's up to the organization to create.
I love training the gi. I've trained it for a long time now.
I like the gi too.
Me too. It's
I like the
fun.
gi
But
too.
that the no-gi is more exciting, and when I look at no-gi, the beach jiu-jitsu is more exciting than no-gi. It's just a little bit more each way. And Gordon Ryan, he did make it exciting. I think he got a lot more spectators back into jiu-jitsu, whether it was from him arguing with people, however he did it. But he got people involved in jiu-jitsu again, and to some degree that's important. I mean, if you don't have the attention, whether it's good or bad, no attention's not a good thing, right? And no people see the sport, it doesn't grow. Whether it's Gordon Ryan, talking real loud or a lot on the internet and arguing with people, he brings attention to it. Or if it's us putting it on the beach in front of hundreds of people, and they're like, wow, that's jiu-jitsu? Cool. Maybe I'll get my kid in it, the attention, attention on the sport's good. We don't want bad attention. I think, Gordon in some way, I think for the most part, what he brought was good attention. It was,
of course.
He brought a lot of fans to the sport. So, and I think beach jiu-jitsu will as well. When I see like the social medias and stuff of like IBJJF and ADCC, I think, there's no reason beach jiu-jitsu can't be just as big in terms of followers and fans, because they're the same fans and they're the same followers. I mean, you like jiu-jitsu. We've just made it more unique to now where we should have the same exact fans, but more interest from them because it's different.
Yeah. That's a great way to diversify the sport, I think. And like you said, like it's on the beach, so it attracts these people that haven't seen jiu-jitsu before. I can imagine that the number of people that walk up to watch a match that don't know anything of jiu-jitsu, it's a bunch.
Well, and they don't leave.
Not even relate to jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Yeah, they'll come off the beach, and then next thing you know, they're setting up their lawn chairs and they spend their day there.
And they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like somebody that you never saw, like cheering for jiu-jitsu. And you're like, yeah. And I'm like hosting, talking shit on the microphone.
Well, you'll see like, you're not supposed to smoke or drink at the event, at the beach. Any of the beaches we've had, you're not supposed to smoke or drink. And we don't allow it. I've kicked people out of the event. So if anyone ever comes to an event and they plan to smoke or drink, we will kick you out. All right? That's just all there is to it. But if you look at some of our videos, you see like the soccer mom out there in her bathing suit, smoking a Marlboro and with a can of Coors Light at the beach. And she wasn't there. She's never intended to be there to watch jiu-jitsu.
She was just
But she was
passing
on the beach, chilling, drinking beer and smoking a cigarette. And next thing you know, now she's watching beach jiu-jitsu and she's back in the back of, Leilani's video.
That's the one I was thinking about. I was thinking about that one.
Yeah,
I remember seeing somebody in the back with like a camera and watching Leilani's video. I was like, what's going on here?
Like weird things in the background. You're like, is that lady drinking a beer and smoking a cigarette? Like, she's not in the event. We didn't invite her there, but hey, we appreciate her interest.
Yeah, it's 100%. And it also makes it for a bigger crowd, dude. Anybody see two people wrestling on the beach, they're gonna stop, and it's gonna be a huge crowd. It's great for the competitors, man. I think that's great. That component. So what do you guys like? What is your? I don't want to say like your strategy, but what is your plan to help like to grow this and like in terms of events?
We have we were talking about this, and this idea came for Jed. We want to do the pay events to attract, of course, competitors, but we also want to provide like opens, beach opens,
kind of like for the amateurs.
Yeah, just people should just compete, like a small feed and offer different things. But we're gonna keep doing the main events. We're gonna do the number 5th event. It is gonna be Miami. So Jed can talk about a little bit if he wants.
Yeah, so we've got somewhat of a plan for 2025 with the events, but a lot of the other tournaments have kind of set the foundation for how we can have events. We don't have to have an event a specific way. We don't have to have it a 4-hour event and 20 competitors. We could have the larger event. Try to get 50, 100 competitors or even more. But what she's saying is like not each event has to have all the belts, prize money, right. And with that it's a little higher registration fee. So maybe we have our main events. Miami's a big area. We plan on going to San Diego this year. We'll go to Texas, and we'll go to Rio. So those are some major events.
You guys are planning that for 2026?
2025.
No. I'm sorry.
This year.
I'm sorry. I jumped a year.
I can't wait that long.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I mean, like, I really want to do, honestly, it will be based on what I can accomplish, because I got to be honest with my career, Of course, God's first and my career second, but my career is very important for me in the moment, and we try to make it happen, and we're trying to, because we need like a license for the events anyways, and you need to go 3 months ahead, and it's perfect because by the time I'm kind of fighting, you know what I mean? So in between, I do what I can do my best, and like we work like very good together because we're like, I'm trying to put him in track about things that we got to do for the next event, and he's bringing the ideas, and I'm like, I'm separating them and I'm structuring them. You know what I mean? Because too many ideas without structure, there's nothing that you can do.
But that's a good partnership because like you want like the idea guy, but you need somebody like, okay, let's calm it down. Let's bring this into normal.
I call her with like 10 things that I've thought about the
And I
last
was like,
2
hey,
to 3
did you
days,
tell
and
me
I'm
how
like,
long
we
you're
got to
gonna
do
be on
this,
the
we got to
phone?
do this, and she's
I was
like, do you got the computer out? Where's the master plan? You don't have the master plan open to take
yeah,
notes.
no. And he's like, can I call you? I was like, it's how long is gonna be this call? Because usually like it's supposed to be like a 5-minute call. You know what I mean? I was like, so do you need to talk more than 20 minutes? And he's like, and I was like, okay, let me know how many things you have to talk about. And he's like 6, 7, and like just talking about things. And I was like, okay, whoa, Jed, open the computer. I was like, I don't have the time right now, but later on I can, and then we can do an hour. Okay, that's fine. And then we queue days up. And he's like, okay, yeah, thank you to structure me. You know, like, okay, you know,
She sets a meeting for the meeting.
Yeah, because
she has to because I'm all over the place.
Yeah, he's all over the place. I was like, let's structure this. I was like, let's build this spreadsheet and then let's put it there. I was like, all these ideas, like I agree, I like it. Let's talk about, you know, he brings everything to me because I'm his partner, and like I am down because I'm like this. I'm very authentic. I like to do things like this, you know, like I like to do the best for people, and we're doing this for people, you know what I mean? Not just for us. It's fun for me, you know, to be hosting and stuff like this. But there's a lot of work involved, you know, a lot of investment that we put, time, money, you know what I mean? And we want to see people having fun, you know, but it's like, it's funny. And we want to do all for Florida this year. And he talked about beer and we're looking forward to host events that we can have holidays around as well to give a different look, because when you go down there, you still have a lot of jiu-jitsu like up there, like Orlando, but you can actually have license for drinking, food, and that's
you can't have license?
Yeah, you can, but not around here because you already have business, you know.
Oh, you mean like in Miami?
Miami area, Fort Lauderdale, you cannot. But if you go up like Cocoa Beach and other places, so we want to explore Florida a lot because there's beautiful beaches, and now we're going to have the best weather, you know. And definitely inside the United States this year, we don't know if Brazil going to happen because it's going to really depend on my green card, but I believe so because I trust God so much. But I would do Brazil at the end of the year because the best time.
That's gonna be awesome, dude.
Yeah, we've got other events planned. Like you said,
we have a lot
Cocoa Beach, we've got planned for June, possibly June 15th. I've got a meeting with the city. This coming week, I have a meeting with the city of Cocoa Beach. Maybe I'm thinking, you know, back on my side of the state over by Tampa, Clearwater area, you know, maybe July-ish. So that's where I said not every event's got to be like a major event like Miami. You know, we can still do Cocoa Beach, but maybe that's a little different because it allows different things. Like each beach, each city is different in what they allow with permits. Right. So where I'm at over Coquina Beach on the Gulf side, they won't allow you to have any food trucks or any vending if there's a pavilion there that sells food or if there's restaurants there selling it, because they just don't want you competing with the local business, and that makes sense. Miami's different. I'm figuring we're working on that and it's going well, but you learn more about what you can have every step of the way. Working with Miami, they don't tell you everything that you can have. They say, ask us. Yeah. And we'll say maybe, and they give you a little more each time, and you know, just enough to want more and more. To just be a little bit frustrating. Hollywood was excellent, but again, you have, you know, each of these permits, you have different guidelines and things you got to do. Miami's 90 days. You know, many of these places you've got to wait 60 days to get the permit. And you know, like Cocoa Beach, if we're allowed to have food trucks, if we're allowed to have alcohol and stuff, that can change the way we set up the whole event. You know, it just changes a lot of things. So we want to try it out. I don't think we want every event to be the same.
No,
I mean,
we want it different.
Miami,
yeah.
we're really trying to be a nighttime event. So
It's
yeah,
like afternoon, nighttime. We're gonna have a pre-event. You know, we're gonna have like capoeira people, like Brazilian dancers.
pre-show.
When you guys were saying like all these beaches that you're gonna go to, like my mind was like, wow, that's like just like the event is gonna be great, but the scenery that's gonna be accompanying it is gonna be amazing. You guys are really thinking about this beyond like to bring eyes, not just with the jiu-jitsu, but with the other things that you're bringing in. It makes it sound like you can pass time there for the matches, but also can be there for the scenery, the event, the other stuff that's going to be
You
provided.
want to make it exciting. I mean, again, you want something that, you know, we want to think about the competitors, but I mean, I think this can be an exciting event that people want to come and watch. Like, you know, there's not a lot of jiu-jitsu events where people want to come and they're excited. I want to see this. I want to see this.
Yeah.
And I think this can be one. So, you know, the more we can do with it within our budget and stuff. And here's the thing is we're at the point where, you know, we've got interest from sponsors and we're starting to get them, but we've got interest in people wanting to collaborate. And that's a big deal because, you know, one, it saves money for both sides. Right. You know, we're usually the people we're collaborating with, we're all trying to grow a little bit.
Yeah.
So like some of the pre-show stuff we're doing, you know, we're collaborating with the artists and stuff so that we don't have to pay for that. And then, you know, we'll send out like videos and stuff on Instagram and promote them to help promote their businesses and stuff and ours at the same time. And one, as we grow our Instagram, it gives us a chance to grow other people, whether it be an athlete, you know, that they just want to help get followers and stuff or more exposure on themselves to compete more, or if it's brands and stuff. And again, just like I think our events are more exciting than just matted events, I think our social media is more exciting. You know, I think when you look at our page, you know, like you look at it, you know, you could really go there and say, hey, I want to watch a couple of these videos.
Yeah, that's what happens though. Like in my experience, you'll start with one and then you kind of like,
you want to see the other.
You want to see the other ones and you kind of get linked into it. Yeah, that's you just explained my experience when I was going through the page.
So for me, that brings in the opportunity for more sponsorship in the future. So is you know, businesses see us collaborating, you know, we're going to make the event awesome with people that, you know, just collaborate with us. You know, we're not even getting big money from people and we're going to put on an excellent event. But I know that the beach jiu-jitsu is going to grow to the point where, you know, we're going to have sponsors just, you know, and we've already got offers on things that, you know, we're just trying to get caught up with and make the decisions. Do we want to work on this or not, or work with these people? And it's a great feeling to have because at one time we didn't have anybody that wanted to work with us.
It's definitely a blessing for sure.
You know, one thing with bringing Talita on, and I'm sure she's noticed it, us starting the Beach Jiu-Jitsu Federation, it really is an organization that we're starting. Like it really feels like we're starting a corporation from the bottom. You know, I've worked in engineering for large corporations and just some of the things structures that we have to put in with the business to set up, you know, you're like, this is needed. And it makes it a serious corporation. But it's a full-time job. It makes it a full-time job to where literally like we've got Talita, we've got Adam, our video guy. Now we've got Milton from Black Belt Digital Marketing working with us. And, you know, a lot of these people are working with us for collaboration and they're investing a lot of their time. And so when I go back to thinking, you know, with our events, we don't want an all-day event. You know, we want a 4-hour event with respect to people's time.
Make it shorter.
These are things I think about when I have conversations with Talita during the week. And I'm going to make a phone call. I'm like, how can I respect her time? Because I know she's busy, you know, things like that.
But I like to go to the point. I'm like, and we're doing something in this conversation here. We're just talking because I don't have time to waste. I'm a go a to-do person. You know what I mean? I was like, tell me, I'll do it. I'll make it happen. And what you give me the idea, I'll structure. Yeah. Like if you give me any problem, I'll solve it. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'll solve it for you, but let's do it.
Don't waste my fucking time.
Yeah, don't waste my time is precious. Like the time I'm wasting time on the phone and we don't have a structure, I can take a nap.
Well, it's not just her time. It's everybody's that's helping, and that that's what I'm getting at. It's like it's Milton's time now.
Yeah.
We've got Adam's time now. So anytime one of them sends, we're in a group chat and one of them sends a message, and I'm thinking like, man, I can't get to that now. I kind of have to because even though we're collaborating on things, they're donating their time. And a big help that Talita came in. She came in right away, and before we talked about her being a business partner, she had already put ownership into it, and the way she was working on it, that I was like, she's pushing me, and this is my business. Like I've got to get working now. And that's exactly how she is. Cause she's like, hey, Jed, you got an idea? Tell me what I got to do with it. If I don't got to do nothing, don't, tell me, but let's move on. But if I've got to do something, tell me. She's got a notepad every time. She's like, let me get my notepad. She's writing notes. She's professional, and she pushes to make things happen. And again, it's our personalities a little different. I need that on my end because I'm a procrastinator. I overthink things. So
no, I am procrastinator too, and I'm an overthinker as well. But I got to a point on my overthinking. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, I'm not. And I watch other people. I was like, stop. I was like, let's fucking do it. Like, yeah, like let's go. You know what I mean? I was like, you want to do this or not? I was like, do you want to just waste time, or we're going to make this thing happen? Because I'm like this, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not procrastinating anymore. I'm not letting my mind like beat me, you know what I mean? And I'm like, Jed, that, and I'm like, Jed, and I was like, I'm sorry. I really like your idea and everything, but I was like, but this is really real. Like, do you want to move forward with this? And you're like, I was like, no, let's go. Let's next. Yeah. But I'm also a little bossy, so I know, you know what I mean?
Just looking at this is bossy.
I'm a little bossy, So
that's needed in type of business partner.
That's one of the reasons I brought her in. You bring a business partner in to do the things that are missing within the business that either I'm just not capable of, I'm not interested in, or it just doesn't fit me well, or my personality. And that's not me. I'll be the guy that every time if we're trying to talk about a sponsorship and our goals, all right, let's get the sponsorship. No collaboration. We need to get this. And they're like, oh, let's just do a collaboration. I'm like, okay, good. And Talita's like, no, stay focused. Stay focused. We're staying focused here. I'm more of a pushover on things, and you need that stronger personality to,
to kind of drive it. I mean, you're running a business at the end of the day,
Yeah, business. Like, you don't know what somebody really gonna offer. And if you are flexible in the beginning, they will go with the flexibility, you know what I mean? So I was like, try. And it's better to negotiate to okay, we're half and half. He gets some, we get some. Than just like, oh no, we're gonna accept what you do, you know what I mean? I was like, no, go big and then go low, you know what I mean? And just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like what you're saying. You're setting a precedent if it's one way, and then you have to go back and
position yourself the way you want. And if they cannot, we go with halfway, you know what I mean? But I don't accept everything,
Yeah, and I think that was the whole point of bringing her on, just in business, but even in the events. She had a lot of knowledge on events and experience that, even though I had a lot of experience in events, she had done other types of events, major events. Yeah. And, she's filling gaps in the beach jiu-jitsu business and the organization, and that's what's needed, and there'll be a time where, again, it's getting too much for us, and we'll need someone else to fill another hole, another gap, to help it grow. And it's a great feeling to have, but we're both putting in a lot of work, and we're not the only ones, and we appreciate everybody else that is.
No, man. Sure. I'm like really excited about what you guys are putting together. And we have like 3 minutes left. One, I want to know when's the next event and anything that you guys want to promote. I know that you guys had a flyer that you guys want to send my way that I can kind of put in the episode. I don't know if you want me to do that.
Flyer? Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's go. So the next event is going to be May 17, Miami. On, what's the area again, Jed?
North Beach.
There, it's a nice area. It's going to be a good, event, We have, many plans, like we said about it. We're going to have, a pre-show at the fight, the weigh-ins, and we're going to do everything nice. And then it's going to have another pre-show, pause show. That's going to be the Brazilian dance. So we're going to still, decide who's going to be first. So it's going to be gonna look in the area, but we're like working this event now after my fight, and we do have to talk about another event as well. That's gonna be the seminar that I'm gonna be doing in Sarasota at the Valley Top Team. It's gonna be the next weekend before I leave to my fight. And the next follow-up day on Sunday, we're doing a beach event.
You guys are busy.
Yeah, trying, you know. And right away, like few days after I leave to Las Vegas.
Yeah, you. Well, first of all, I appreciate you coming in. I know you're in camp right now. You fight on the 5th of April, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate you taking the time. I'm sorry I froze you.
No,
I have all the pillows on top of you.
No, look at me. I'm ready. I was telling Jed, I was like, I'm hot in the car. I was like, no, it might be cold there. So I'm going to.
Smart move. Everybody says that it's cold, and I usually turn it off. I should have turned it off this time. That's my fault. But
nah, don't worry.
it is cold in here. I like it. I like
my
it really
house
cold.
is the same way.
Yeah, I like it really cold. Jed, you got anything?
Just as Talita spoke, you know, we've got the event May 17th. You know, we're going to do some different things with that. You know, we're going to try to do a nighttime event. We've got the permit in for that. They'll tell us if we can have it. You know, we'll have fire displays with it. We'll have the Brazilian dancers, and they'll have the drums, you know, like the warrior drums. Boom, boom, boom. So it'll have...
It's going to be the better of teams or not?
Yes. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. How could we forget? So we're also doing a gym wars.
Okay.
So we'll have 4 to 6 academies, and we're still setting up the rules and stuff with it. So for example, let's say we have 4 academies and they have 4 to 6 competitors. We'll match them up. And, you know, the academy that, what's that?
Kind of like a quintet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the academy with the most points or wins the belt and whatever prize money. It'll be submission only again, and you get a point for a submission and no points if it's a draw. And the team with the most points wins. I mean, so theoretically, you could have a team that, I mean, had 1 submission and win it. You know what I'm saying? If that's all there is.
Right.
But the idea is that the submissions drive points, and you know, the team with the most points wins.
I like that setup. I think it's pretty cool. Like having that submission, and if nobody submits, it's a draw. I like that. I think that's pretty cool. Are you guys gonna do like an overtime with the matches?
Yeah, we did. I think we'll probably keep the same structure. I think that worked out good from the last event. What we did was they were 5-minute rounds, and we had a 3-minute overtime. Okay. But you know, if someone was caught in a submission or something,
and 3 minutes go by, they keep going.
Yeah. So if the regulation's over and you know you're caught in a rear naked choke, you know at that 5-minute mark, we're not going to stop it. You know, you're still going to have to escape until you escape.
Yeah. If there is a submission.
Yeah. If you want that timer to stop, you've got to escape. If not, we're going to let it run until that 8 minutes, and that just means that you were defending it the whole time. You know.
Yeah,
now 3
minutes go by the overtime, and you're in a submission, then you try to defend, and it's not submission. We're not stopping.
Yeah. That's great. I love that.
We only stop it when there is a defense or a finish.
That's great. I love that. That's great, man. Well, thank you guys for coming on. It was a great conversation. I'm really excited about everything that you guys are doing. You know, with the mindset you have for the federation. Like you said, you're just not putting on events. You're putting together a federation, an organization to put on these beach events. I really hope that you guys grow. We'll be attending the May 17th one for sure. It sounds like a lot of fun. My wife is crazy to compete. But other than that, I really appreciate your time. It was a great conversation, and we'll be there in May. And good luck in your fight.